Where there's a will, there is a way. And remember, we are in the business of helping every company to get every employee in that company the opportunity to live a great life so that they're doing what they love doing with people that they love. They know that they're making a great contribution to making the world a better place. They're being compensated appropriately. And finally, they have plenty of time left over for their other passions in their family. That's what we're in the business of helping companies do and helping employees live that life out. Today, we got a great guest, Mike Ryan, 25 years or more, serving Fortune 500 and middle market businesses. And he's helping them create results through supply chain and operations optimization. So welcome, Mike. I understand you're the ice melter.
Thank you, Will. Yeah, I've crushed an inventory iceberg in my day or two. It's watching businesses struggle who have cash frozen in inventory. That is something that I truly enjoy and appreciate helping businesses figure out.
Well, now I think one of the companies that I introduced you to, they've got what's frozen for them is their product being shipped out because they're missing that golden screw, right?
The worst time to figure out that you are out of something is when you go to reach in a bin and discover it's not there. It's like baking chocolate chip cookies. You got the batter going, the oven's all warmed up, and at that very moment you realize you're missing the chocolate chips.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out, how do we look a little bit further down the road to understand what we have and what we don't have, so we can proactively plan around it.
Well, and given the supply chain insanity right now. It's every other day I'm seeing ships hanging out outside of Laguna Beach, waiting to get into the port of Los Angeles, and just that kind of crunch. But then also all the shipments from China being locked up because of their recent lockdowns. This is just insane for manufacturers, isn't it?
It is. It's been a couple of years like no other, in that what used to be very predictable and dependable has now become chaotic. And just as we started to see some of the port congestion ease and material start flowing, then we've got a hold up on the other side upstream, and it's been a challenge. And one of the things I've seen, one of the ways it's present challenges for business, especially those that are growing, there was a 12-month period of buy, right? I'm worried I'm not going to get it. I'm worried it's going to run out, so I'm going to buy more than I need. And there was just this flood of inventory and products that just congested the port. So now is the time where we're trying to predict as best as we can, given lead times that have doubled and tripled. And again, it's trying to be as proactive as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, it's just amazing, and people like you to be out there to help solve the problems. And now I'm hoping that you solve the problems just for right now as well as for the future by putting some systems in place.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest shifts that I've seen is, let's go pre-pandemic. If the lead time on a part coming from overseas was 12 weeks, basically that's how far you had to look out as a business. As long as I know what the next 12 weeks of sales are going to be, I can plan. But when lead times go from 12 weeks to 26 weeks or 30 weeks, that means, along with planning out the supply, you have to look at your sales that much further out, which has been a big challenge for a lot of businesses. So, with lead times going out to 6 months and businesses being forced to forecast or plan out 6 months, getting a process in place that looks that far out as lead times get better and as things stabilize. If lead times get back to, somewhere in the middle, 18 weeks, the business will have started to look out past that horizon, so it becomes a sustainable improvement moving forward.
Wow. So what have you observed with companies that I'm curious now? I'm a little biased, so but I'm looking for some data. Do you see any difference in how a company running on EOS deals with the supply chain logistics kinds of things now versus a company doing something else?
It's almost night and day, Will.
Really?
One of the biggest things, so if a business is running on EOS, they've got a process, they've got people, and most importantly, they have accountabilities defined. They know who is doing what and when, right? I see one of the core tenets of EOS being accountability. In a business that isn't running EOS, if they don't have a process or if they don't have strong accountability, then it's like back of the envelope math there. I don't even think there's an envelope involved. The results are going to be not as favorable and not as sustainable as a business that has people, process, technology running in a framework like EOS. To me, one of the great things, having worked in businesses that are run on EOS, is the communication. Like there's a standard cadence. Expectations are very, very clear, and even if you have something and you miss a target or something slips, everybody else on the team knows, and they can buffer that into their calculations or their calculus to say, okay, it was supposed to happen last Friday. If it happens this Friday, right, here's the impact, and we can get ahead of the game. The communication is there, where in businesses that lack that communication or lack that accountability, it's much, much harder to get similar results.
Wow, that's a big difference. Big difference.
Oh, well, one of my favorite examples was with a client out west. They were in the favorable position that every machine they could build, they could sell. And for them, capital equipment manufacturer, between 5 and 6 months lead time. So if you ordered on, May 1st, the earliest you would get it is like October 1st, probably closer to November 1st. And the problem that they were trying to solve, beginning with the end in mind, is how do we get more machines out the door? So I'm sitting in this executive planning meeting, and there's probably 8 or 9 people around the table. Everybody is making commitments. Everybody's making promises. Not a single person was writing anything down.
Wow.
So all kinds of promises made, but 30 seconds after the meeting, it would be anybody's guess if they even remembered what they signed up for, let alone felt any accountability to the promises that they made.
Wow. Amazing. And that's my experience as well. People somehow they didn't go through the class that said how to run an effective meeting in their MDA program.
Well, that's part of it. I think that's certainly a component. I think part of it falls into the status quo, or hey, that's the way it's always been done.
Right.
Well,
right. Yeah.
If that's the way it's always been done, then you can't really expect to get any different results, right? Because it doesn't work like that. So.
Well, and one of my clients, I just love him. What he said was that he grew up. He's like maybe 35, 40, somewhere in there, and he said he grew up with his father teaching him that the only way to success is work hard. If you're not working hard, you're not on the way to success. And that meant 60, 70 hours a week. And he's this guy's got, a couple of kids that he loves being with, but he wasn't with them. And when he began to not only see how the system worked, I mean, it was certainly helpful for him to find the right people in the right seats and then begin to delegate to people he trusted. But what was major for him was shifting this mental picture that if you're not working hard, you're not going to be a success. And when he washed that away and began looking at the results that he was getting, the results the company was getting, what other people were doing, and he realized he did not have to work over 40 hours a week.
Oh. Well, and it's, how's the, many hands make for light work.
Yeah.
It's, it's understanding that, yes, there are tasks or goals that need to be reached, but there are other people who can help you along that journey. And I found that, most people that I've had the opportunity to work with, as long as they understand where we're going and what needs done, it helps, right? It helps share the load. And more often than not, two heads are better than one, and three heads are better than one. And having different people, getting their inputs, having their support, and realizing that it's not like you're Sisyphus when you have to push that stone up the mountain by yourself. There's other people that'll help you.
Yeah, and just what I find so exciting is when people get clear about what their 10-year target, their 3-year picture, their 1-year plan. When they get clear about that, it's not like we got to do everything tomorrow or next week or next month. And they can begin to compartmentalize the journey that they have, rather than trying to do it all at once or carrying on that imagination, to be able to say, look, yes, that's important. We're not going to deal with that this 90 days. Right. We're not going to forget about it, but we're not going to deal with it right now because these are the priorities here. Being able to have that record of what do we want to look on next now that we've solved these other or achieved these other goals, that's just amazing to me when people begin to compartmentalize and trust others so they can delegate to them. Such incredible changes, not only for the business, but just for the life that people can now. Now, I have one fellow who's struggling right now because he's living the EOS life, and he's got all this time, and he's trying to figure out, well, what do I do with it? What's my passion right now? Rather than starting another business, what's my passion? What do I really enjoy doing?
Yeah. Well, it's it sounds like or seems like it's maybe the opportunity there is to separate out activity versus productivity, right? Being busy doesn't always mean that you're actually getting something done.
Well, that's true too. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now tell me about your business. Do you run on EOS?
I do. I have discrete, definable, measurable goals. I have accountability partners that help me make sure I am staying on my journey. And when and if I bump up a proverbial guardrail, right? There's people to help make sure I'm still headed in the right direction. And it's the thing that always comes to mind for me is having a goal in your head versus having something written down. Once you write it down, at least for me, it becomes something that's more meaningful and more tangible.
So, would you say that you are living the EOS life now?
Yes, I mean I think there's like any business, I think there's always going to be opportunities to improve. And I'll say the shift from being very reactive to being planful and proactive and breaking things up into chunks to say, hey, I don't need to move the ball 100 yards downfield in the next 90 days, right? My goal is to move it 25 yards downfield. And, by breaking up, big goals into, more manageable bites, it's certainly helped me achieve the results that I'd like.
Yeah. Well, are you doing what you love doing?
Oh, I am. It's for me, Will. My favorite thing in the world is to solve problems,
Yeah.
and a lot of the clients I work with, they become so used to maybe a particular approach or a particular way of doing things that sometimes there are opportunities that are just hidden in plain sight. And a lot of what I do, and I joke about it. I think it was a FedEx commercial. It's either FedEx or UPS where bunch of people sitting around the table, and a guy in the middle of the table says, well, what happens if we do this, right? And he moves his hands in parallel, and everybody's like, no, 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 no. And then the guy at the head of the table says, what about it if we do it like this? And everybody's like, yeah. and the guy's like, I just said that. And he's like, no, you did this, and he did this. And really, it's not unusual. It's not surprising anymore, where sometimes what I do is help people who are working in the process, communicate opportunities that they found to work on the process. So it's I don't have a magic wand. I'm not a magician.
Yeah.
I sometimes it's more like Columbo than anything else. It's trying to understand, let's begin with the end in mind. What's the problem we're trying to solve, and in what ways can we do things differently to reach that goal?
Right. Well, all right. So you're doing what you love doing, your unique ability. Do you work with people you love with? You love?
So the short answer is yes. I'm hesitating because I've been fortunate that I've gotten to a point in my business where I have the ability to say, yes, hey, we're a good fit. I want to work with you. Let's work together. And, when I come across something that on the surface may be an opportunity, but there's not either a philosophical fit or a cultural fit, I don't have to take the work anymore. So
no jerks. No jerks.
No jerks. Yep.
So you're doing what you love. You're working with people that you love, and do you see yourself making a big difference?
Oh, I do, and that's and for me, I'm an engineer by trade, and for me, I like to have things that are tactile or things that are measurable, and whether we're talking about supply chain or operations or inventory or cash or EBITDA. Those are things that are all measurable, and it's like, hey, when we started, we were at this point. I'm gonna do it like this. When we started, we were at this point, and over time, we got to this point. And it's not only qualitative and subjective, like it feels better. Our customers are happier, but it's also very, very quantifiable in terms of, hey, our performance was here, and now our performance is here. And when we look at the delta, that provides a multiplicative return on the investment in terms of the work that we've done.
Great. So now I trust that you are getting compensated appropriately. And if you want to get more, you know how to get more, right? Good. So you're doing what you love with people you love, making a great difference, being compensated appropriately, and are you taking time to for your other passions?
I am. I've been blessed with a wonderful wife and 4 children, and especially in the last year, it's been very intentional. Carving out time for the family. First couple years of my business where it was run and chase and turning over rocks. I'll just say my priorities were maybe a little bit misaligned, where now I would say my priorities are better aligned than they've been over the last 5 or 6 years.
Hmm. Oh, is it because of the past 2 years?
Past 2 years certainly helped.
Yeah.
Having a global supply chain disruption has definitely been good for my business. Will,
I see. Yeah.
there's no questioning that. But at the same time, I think it's becoming more attuned to the process and kind of the ebb and flow of the work and the ebb and flow of the business that has helped me really sync up and make sure that I've got my priorities where they need to be.
So, what do you enjoy doing? Maybe in the family, but maybe apart from the family. But what do you personally enjoy? What kind of passions do you have?
I love being outside.
Yeah.
I love being outside and live in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, and there are definitely portions of the year where, if not properly dressed, it's not exactly conducive to going outside. So, spending time outside and really spending time with my family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Super. Super. Well, what? Who should be talking to you? Tell us about what kind of issues if people have these issues, they should be calling you.
Yeah, so I'd say the top three are: number one, my customers don't like me. Right? My customers don't like me because I don't have the right product at the right time. That's issue number one. Issue number two is I've got record inventories, and at the same time I've got record back orders, which tells me I've got too much of the wrong stuff and not enough of the right stuff. And coincidentally, when I have record levels of inventory, typically see record low levels of cash flow, just because that cash gets frozen in inventory. So that's the second one. And then the third one, which is really my favorite, is when I hear somebody say, "We're running out of room. We need to rent more space." And I'm like, time out. I said, if you wake up tomorrow morning and 3 closets mystically appear in your home, 3 brand new closets, completely empty, you will fill those closets, right? It's like nature abhors a vacuum. If you woke up tomorrow and there were 3 empty closets, you would fill them. When a business rents more warehouse space, they will fill it. So where I constructively challenge the conversation is, hey, before we go rent more space, let's see what you have. Are there things from 10 years ago that have literally, you've done 10 years worth of physical inventory and the stickers are piled up? Maybe it's time we turn that back into cash, or maybe it's time we see if we can find another outlet. So, how do we clean out the closet that you do have before we go, dig up another closet, because you're just going to fill it up, and you fill it up and it's going to put that much more pressure on cash flow as well.
Do you think that that the just-in-time movement is going to be changed? How's that going to affect what we've just experienced?
That's a great question. Leading up to the pandemic, just-in-time, I would say for the last easily 10 years, probably 15 years, really worked well, right? And just-in-time is completely dependent on predictable and repeatable supply. So if I know every day there's going to be a milk run at noon, and there's going to be parts to go from the supplier to the customer, that's great. Then maybe I need to keep 1 day's worth of inventory on the shelf. So if I know I can replenish once a day, maybe I'll keep 1 day, right? So total of 2 days in inventory. But when you don't know if the milk run's going to go from every day to every other day to once a week, inventory just has to balloon. So, if the mailman only came once a week, or the milkman only came once a week, they would probably give you 5, 6, 7 times as much stuff. So when the predictability and the repeatability goes out of the supply chain, the ability to do just in time, it goes away with it. So,
Right.
you find yourself, loading up on when product becomes available. It's just human nature. I'm going to load up on more because I don't know when I'm going to see it again. So instead of
Right.
buying a week's worth of toilet paper, I'm going to buy a month's worth of toilet paper.
Oh, I know that very well.
Yeah. So,
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
so I would not say that just in time is dead. I absolutely believe in it when there is predictable and repeatable supply. So,
Well,
yeah.
do you think that there is going to be a significant reshoring of manufacturing?
I've already started to see it take place. So, the easy math was, hey, if I take a per piece cost something made in the U.S. versus a per piece cost of something made in China, right? It was almost like there was no math involved. It cost me $2 to make it here. I can get it in China for 70 cents. I'm just going to buy it from China. And when the lead times, relatively speaking, were shorter, right, that worked okay. But now, with lead times being 6 months, depending on payment terms, a business could have cash tied up for 4, 5, or 6 months, right? And it's non-productive. So
Right.
the math becomes different where,
That's
what,
right.
what used to be $2 versus 70 cents, you put the container and freight costs on it, and now it's like $2 to like maybe $1.65. That gap has shrunk.
Well, and then also the cost of money. That you've got your money has been tied up there because of either accounts receivable because you can't ship the part, or who knows what else. But it's that's where the fancy calculators used to come out to talk about the cost of money then and cost of money now, and amazing. But those really become important, and part of me is really happy about that. I admit I was really pleased with the whole notion of globalization and giving jobs to people who were on starving wages, and I never really considered the price that we as a society were paying by ripping those companies up because we had treated employees as assets, the best asset, but nevertheless an asset, and when that to take that company out of the places where, like in the town where I grew up, the companies that were there, they were part of the fabric of the community, and to just simply rip it up and move it out, that leaves people with no belonging, no purpose. What do I do next? I'm not moving to the city. This is my life, and maybe there's some learning there about, there's in addition to that $70 to $2 that all of that financial piece, there's also a responsibility, it seems to me, that a business has to provide for its employees and give them the opportunity to live a good life.
Well, and I think another thing is that, if there's a silver lining that's come out of this, is that I think there are things that people are willing to pay a little bit more, and I mean a little bit, but a little bit more for if it's made in the USA, and right if it's a more consistent and predictable supply. I mean, one thing, it was interesting, if we look back to March or April of 2020, going to the grocery store, I mean, that was almost like a case study in, hey, if there's anything left on the shelf, you should probably take that out of your product line because nobody's buying it. I remember going to the store, and the cereal aisle was laid bare, with the exception of maybe 9 or 10 cereals. And I look at these 9 or 10 cereals, and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to eat that either. So it's to me, it's understanding, what the customer values, what products are profitable, and because over time, product portfolio is just tend to spread and spread and spread. And if there isn't kind of an active rationalization of, hey, we don't need to be everything to everyone, we can really do fewer things and do them better. That's one of the things that I've seen come out of the last 2 years is really an understanding of, hey, what product moves and what product portfolios have just sprawled, and how do we pull them back together?
Well, Mike, you were talking about this reshoring, bringing companies back to the United States. How do you see that? What do you see when you look around?
So what I'm seeing is that there are definitely products that people are willing to pay a little bit more for, especially if they know they can, get the quality and the consistency that they want. I do think that there will probably almost always be a need for what I would call, commoditized products like plastic spoons and plastic forks.
The Alibabas of the world, huh?
Yeah, but for those items that are more value added, by very definition, I can see more and more of that, coming back to the U.S. I know there's a tool and die maker here in Cleveland that, let's say, for a 12 by 12 by 12, a 1 cubic foot die, let's say it costs $15,000. They can do that in 3 weeks. Now, if they take that same die and try to have it made in China or Taiwan, maybe it's a third of the price, maybe it's $5,000, but it's literally going to take 10 times as long. It'll probably take 30 weeks.
Whoa.
So there's definitely, cost of capital, I think now more than ever is playing into the equation, as well as, hey, if there's something I want or something I need, can I hop in a truck in Cleveland, Ohio, and drive to Elkhart, Indiana, and go pick it up, or am I waiting for a boat to dock, then get offloaded, then get onto rail, then get onto truck, then hope there's a driver for the truck for it to show up at my plant? Right. So, starting to see more and more where, the pros outweigh the cons of, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Going to be a really big shift. It's amazing, just amazing. Well, Mike, this has been really a treat to be with you and to see the world through the eyes of a logistics master.
Well, I appreciate it. There are definitely people who are far better at me than keeping the trains running on time. What I like to say is, I help businesses solve problems and by creating processes that are definable, predictable, and repeatable.
Good. So if somebody wanted to talk to you, how should they get in touch with you?
Easiest way is go to my website. It's mryangroup.com. And right on the top of the page, there's a little button that says book a call. Take you right to my calendar, and I look forward to the opportunity to have a conversation.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mike. This is just another example of how, when issues come up, especially if you have a system for dealing with issues, taking them out of that emotional spot to turning them just into an issue to be solved. Where there's a will, there is a way. And we're going to be seeing that in the next couple of years. And Mike's talking about the cutting edge, the front edge that we're seeing now. So this is going to be fun. Stay tuned. We're going to have lots of great people talking about how to create the opportunity for every employee in your business to live an ideal life.